Hey folks, thanks for joining me today. So today's tutorial comes from one that I did a couple of videos ago. I will link the video in the description below. Um, but it is of the Quirky Horse that I did. And this one I'm going to be doing a donkey. So I called the horse one a Quirky Horse. And this one is going to be called the Grinning Donkey. So it goes with the saying, and I'm not going to say the whole saying because I don't want my video to get flagged, but the saying is grinning like a jack bleep eating thistles. So I hope you can fill in the blank there and understand why I didn't want to say the word. Um, but anyways, I've always really liked that saying, especially when somebody's like really happy and you don't know why, um, or that they're up to something and so they're grinning about it, knowing something's going to happen. So it's a saying that I use quite often with my peers, and it's a good saying. I really like it. So I thought, what the heck? Let's paint one and see how it turns out. And I got the idea when I was doing the horse. So this will be my grinning donkey. And I'm using the stone from the mold that I received from the Happy Dotting Company. There is a link in the description below if you want to get a hold of one of these molds for yourself. And it's the large oval, like I said. And then I painted the stone white with DecoArt white. And the back is black, but I didn't bore you with that. But I have painted the back black. Um, and then I used a Kelly green from Americana, and this is one of my new colors that I purchased. And I just watered it down and used a very wet brush to put the background on, making sure that the brush strokes were going all in the same direction so that I got those lines in the background. So I didn't want it blended, I really wanted the lines to show, and that's what I did. Then when I drew the design on, I used my General's charcoal pencil. And I love these pencils because once everything's dry, you can just use a damp cloth or maybe a cotton swab to wipe it off. And it comes right off and it doesn't damage the paint or anything, and it doesn't damage your design. So that's why I like using them so much. So I drew the design on, and then I went in with the Quaker Gray, which is made from Delta, and it is oh, sorry, I went in with the neutral gray from Americana, and that's the darker gray. And then the Quaker gray is the lighter gray, which is what I'm using now. And I do eventually use some of the Quaker gray from Delta, and I add a little bit of white just to give it a different shade so that I can do some blending. So I'm using all sorts of different types of blending brushes and sponges here, just to give you an idea as to all of the things that you can use to do your blending, whether it's in a bigger area or a smaller area. I make some of my blending brushes, and there is a video on how to do that in my video list. So definitely go and check that out, because it teaches you basically, if your brushes start to split, like the bristles begin to separate, then you don't throw it out. You give it new life by giving it a new purpose. So some of them I make into a fine lining brush, and others I make into a blending brush. So I'm using one right now that is a homemade blending brush, and all I did was I cut the bristles off very close to the metal and makes them very, very short. And then I can use them as a blending brush and get into those little small areas that I couldn't with my finger daubers. There is a list in the description below for all the tools that I use. If I have purchased them, there is a link usually to Amazon or the Dotting Center or Happy Dotting Company, as well as my tutorials that I have for how to make a blending brush and how to make a fine lining brush. So definitely after the video, check out the description. There's tons of great information in there. And all of the colors that I use, plus the brand names, will be listed in there as well. So I sometimes get going and I talk about stuff and I forget to mention the colors or I forget to mention who made them. But remind you to check that out at the end of the video, and know that the colors that I use are just what I have available to me. I have them in my stash, and I encourage you to do the same. Find your own colors. You don't need to go out and buy new ones just for this, unless it's something that you feel that it's a color you're going to use quite often. But I do encourage you to make this your own. This is just suggestion, and it's what I had available to me. So okay, so let's catch you up. So I did a lot of blending, and I added some pink into his ears, and then I used some white and I just filled in where his teeth are going to go, and now I'm just outlining his lips, and I'm just using that darker gray color and making sure that there's a good separation between the lips and his teeth, because we're going to get into some detail very shortly. And the detail is what really makes this guy pop. So I didn't use any bling bling on this guy. I didn't use any glitter paints, or I didn't even use gold. So this is just a fun little guy that I've made. And I was inspired when I did the horse, and I thought, oh, we've got to have a donkey. So this is what I came up with. Now, I will tell you that near the end, you'll notice like his nostrils are really big. And unfortunately, I'm not a big fan of the big nostrils, but he's a donkey. He's a cartoon. He's a character. So I left them. But just so that you know, you could go in and fix that up by giving him smaller nostrils. If you want them even bigger, make them bigger. Just do what you want. I also find that his ears are a little bit too small. I'm not very good with proportionates, and that's why I like to do like these cartoony kind of paintings, because I'm not very good at the proportions. And I know I've talked about this before, especially with eyeballs. I can never get their pupils the same size. But I have discovered little tips and tricks along the way through my years of painting on how to make these things kind of work. So instead of trying to be very particular in making something perfect, I just find my workarounds so that it still looks really good, but I can cover up my mistakes and just work with my my downfalls. They're not downfalls. They're just things that I can't quite get perfect. So it's just learning how to work with what you've got, and that's what I've done over the years. I don't fret about the things that I can't help, and instead I find ways to work with it and to make it not stop me from doing what I really love. And I really love painting. I do it all the time. Like, I'm always painting. And there's so many things that I paint outside of my YouTube channel. I do try to keep up to date on my postings on Facebook and on Instagram. I do have to admit that I'm not the greatest at doing that, because my primary focus is to make sure that I get content out for you guys to watch. That's where I get my most joy. And I really, really liked doing this guy. And like I said, the inspiration came from the horse that I did. So I'm now, I suppose, a matching pair, but they're different characters. I don't know. Anyways, so now I'm outlining his lips, and I'm just using one of my fine lining brushes that I've made, and some black paint from DecoArt. And I'm just going very thinly. And this keep in mind, I don't paint this fast, so my video has been sped up because I don't want you guys sitting through a 45-minute video. So it just makes it look like I'm going fast. If it's going too fast and you want to follow along, just pause it, or you can slow it down within YouTube. So, which is really cool. I didn't know that we could do that kind of thing, but I've just recently discovered it. So, definitely, if you want to follow along and you this is going too fast, just pause it, or you can slow it down so that you can follow along. So now I'm doing his big old teeth. Now, what I did was I went in and I just drew basically where his lips would separate if they were together. And then I drew, or I painted these lines, and they were very, very sharp. And I didn't want that. I wanted them to be rounded. So wherever it met, I just rounded with the black paint ever so slightly so that all of his teeth were rounded. And that way it gives the illusion that his teeth are sort of touching each other, but you know that there's like maybe a tongue in behind there, or his mouth is in behind there. So that's what gives it this kind of almost 3D effect. And it's something that's very simple to do. You just, round off the edges on wherever those lines meet. And it turned out amazing. I will admit that I debated about giving him a gold tooth and making one tooth really shiny, but I didn't do that. Maybe another time I can, I guess, punk him all out, give him an earring and maybe a nose ring or something. I don't know. Maybe I'll do a bull. Who knows? But I debated about it and I thought, no, let's keep this guy a happy farm animal. So that's what I did. So I just continue outlining all of the features. So around his nostrils, I also do the inside of his nostrils. I do his eyes, his ears, like everything. And I give him one of those funky little bristle kind of manes that donkeys have. That's very similar to what a zebra has. So I do all of that as I continue painting. Just know that that's what's coming. And again, I do have issues with doing his eyes, getting the pupils the same color. But I thought, nah, we'll just leave it the way it is. And you'll see that as I continue to paint. By the way, I just want to do a correction. I don't have issues with getting his pupils the same color. I have issues getting his pupils the same size. The color was no problem. It was the size. So I'm sorry about that, but just a quick little correction on that. I just want to take a minute or so to invite you to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And make sure that you let me know if you like this video by giving me the thumbs up. Leave me a comment as well. I love reading them and I always respond. And if you don't want to miss anything, hit that bell because the bell will give you a notification every time I post something new. Okay, folks, so his nostrils are just about done here. What do you think? Are they too big? Maybe he's snorting laughing. You know those people that do that? And it just is contagious and makes you want to laugh along with them. Maybe that's what he's doing. Let's go with that. That's what we're going to say. Okay. So his nostrils are done. We're moving on up to the head, and I'm just doing the outline of like his face, his ears, and I just continue on doing all the outline. Now you'll notice that when I do his ears right now, I put a line in between where the pink part ends and then the ears sort of come together. What I was trying to do was to make it like they were folded at the end. And I didn't like how it turned out. So what I did was I let it dry and then I painted over top of it with the same gray. And then I re-outlined it. I believe I edited it out But just to let you know, that's what I ended up doing. And you'll see that very shortly that those lines are gone and that his ears look a lot better. Um, but again, like I said, that's the beauty of the acrylic paint is that you just let it dry if you don't like something and paint over top of it. So now I'm doing his eyes and the outside of his eyes, so the whites of his eyes. I just used one of those blending brushes that I bought off of Amazon. They work absolutely amazing, especially if you want to get good circles, but have kind of like that fuzzy look around on the outside, or they're great for bigger areas. They come in 3 sizes as well. So uh, definitely check those out. They're amazing. Um, and I used it to get the right size of his eyes. Now, what I should have done was use the smaller one for the black uh, to do the inside, but I didn't. I used the paintbrush because I'm so stubborn. I'm stubborn as a donkey. But so what I did was I added some lighter gray underneath his eyes because when you're smiling, your cheeks go up and they make your eyes sort of squint a bit. So that's what I did there was I added with one of my homemade blending brushes and I just added in some cheek parts that go up into his eyes and then I just outlined it after that. So now I'm doing his pupils that, like I said, didn't work out very good, but you know what? It works. I'm going to say that it works and I love him. Then I go in and I give him a little bit of hair that's sort of just laying on his forehead, not doing much, making him look cute. I put some hairs into his ears, and now you'll see that that one line is gone, so his ears aren't folded over. Then I do his mane, and I just take a brush and I put a very thick line of black, and then I use my fine lining brush and I just swipe it up to give it that bristle look. Of course, got to put his eyebrows on there. So here's his mane. So that's all I do, and I let him dry, give him a coat of resin, and he's finished. So there you have it, folks. Life is what you make it, so get creative.